Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. You have Alyssa Corum and Ken Shreve here. We're going to break down the action for the major indexes. Small caps leading today's big gains, as it looks like, at least for now, the reopening trade is back on. Ken, what do we have on tap for today?
Well, let's take a look at an oil and gas producer that came through a recent restructuring, and it is trading tightly near highs like its price action. That'll be Denbury. Also take a look at Scott's Miracle-Gro, which was our IBD 50 stocks to watch yesterday, and also CarMax, which reports earnings next week.
All right, fantastic. Well, let's kick things off with a look at the major indexes. The Russell 2000 here, ETF IWN. You can see a big upside reversal today. The Russell closing up over 2.2% for the day. I think a little bit more than that, actually, by the end of the session. We also had the S&P 500 up about 0.5%. The Dow up 0.6%, and the Nasdaq also closing in positive territory, up about 0.1% for the day. So small caps, which had gotten hit really hard in this most recent downdraft, seeing a really strong upside reversal today.
Yeah, I mean, a sharp break of the 50-day moving average Tuesday for the Russell 2000 in heavy volume. Volume was heavy again on Wednesday. It fell further below the 50-day line. But look at the volume today. We had very, very heavy volume and a nice upside reversal. So this does not automatically fix the Russell 2000. It's still below its 50-day moving average, so still has some work to do here. But small caps definitely the leaders during Thursday's session.
And let's also check in on the S&P 500, which undercut its 50-day line intraday today after closing below the 21-day line in yesterday's session. But would you consider today's action a positive development?
Well, yeah, because we saw higher volume than Wednesday, so there was a little bit of accumulation in the SPY as well. So making a nice test of the 50-day moving average. We've been saying all along that the Dow and the S&P looking a lot better than the Nasdaq composite in recent days, and S&P 500 proved itself again with a nice making a nice stand at its 50-day line.
And speaking of the Nasdaq composite, here we are closing below that 13,000 level in yesterday's session. But again, the Nasdaq did manage an upside reversal of its own today, closing fractionally higher, but below that $13,000 mark, or not dollar, but 13,000 mark.
13,000 mark, yeah. And you can see this, the red line there, the 50-day moving average. It has been, it's clearly a resistance level at this point. So we'll see if the Nasdaq can eventually get back above 13,000. What's interesting to note that even though the Nasdaq reversed slightly higher today, it was, I think it was the lagging index today, and there wasn't much volume. We've been looking at the volume in the other indexes today. Nasdaq volume looks to be lower than what it was Wednesday. So this index is still struggling. And like I said, when Nasdaq was up more than 40% in 2020, sometimes that takes a little while to digest those gains and consolidate. So I'm not sure the Nasdaq composite is going to be a leader anytime soon. But the market does what's least expected sometimes, and it's not out of the question that we could start a new uptrend for the Nasdaq, but just not happening yet.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It seems like this rotation is still very much playing out. And a lot of these NASDAQ stocks are at best, it seems like, forming new bases. So we'll have to see how those develop. And let's take a look at some individual stocks now. Denbury, ticker DEN. Ken, you mentioned some nice tight action for this one.
Yeah, I really like the way it's trading, holding above its 50-day moving average, and holding above the 40 level. So you can see the annual estimates are pretty strong for Denbury. I said earlier this morning on IBD Live that the exploration and production group is perhaps where you find the strongest earnings estimates in the oil and gas sector. So you look down at the bottom, Denbury shows a lot of recent revenue declines. Nice pickup in earnings when the company reported Q4 results up 544%. But technically, the stock looks great. If we could swing over to the weekly chart, that kind of smooths it out a little bit more. And just like the way it's shown incredible price strength. It's got an accumulation distribution rating of A-. That indicates pretty strong demand for shares. And I think the up-down volume is also quite high. At last check, I think it was 2.2 2.6 or 2.7. So what we know is that shares remain under accumulation, and stock continues to have a pretty good technical picture.
So in terms of the proper entry for this one, would you be looking at a declining tops trend line, it clearing some of these recent highs, getting above the 45 level? What are you looking at here?
Well, ideally a pullback to the 50-day moving average. If that doesn't happen, we'd like to see just more sideways movement above the 40 level and have it form just a nice little base. So it just started the third week of a new base here. So typically a base like this is going to need at least 6 weeks to form. So it may pause for a little while longer, move sideways. I don't think the stock is actionable now, and even on the daily chart, drawing a trend line is a little bit of a it's not the best trend line really. So I would just wait for sideways movement, and but if the market continues to weaken and oil and gas stocks come in a little more, this would be a good candidate for a nice first test of the 50-day moving average.
And Scott's Miracle-Gro, ticker SMG, also on our radar as it works on this cup with handle here, gaining about 2% in today's session. It did have some pretty sharp declines as it formed this new base, but that bottom day of the base, pretty encouraging action there. And now we're seeing some nice tight trading.
Yeah, nice support at the bottom of the base. You can see the stock broke sharply below the 200 level and then rallied all the way back, closed near its highs, and then it's just been working its way higher in some pretty decent volume. So you don't see many charts like this in the market right now, but this is a classic, cup with handle base. When the handle area formed over the past 6 or 7 days, didn't get a major shakeout, which is what you want to see when a handle forms. You want to see it kind of drifting lower. So it's not an ideal looking handle, but this stock is definitely a breakout candidate with a pretty decent relative strength line. And I mentioned my colleague Alan Elliott covered this yesterday in the IBD 50 stocks to watch. Had a great headline, when lawn care meets marijuana, because Scott's Miracle-Gro has been investing heavily in the cannabis area. They look at that as a very nice growth avenue for them. And, this is a stock that's setting up pretty nicely.
Yeah, and speaking of that relative strength line, even though it isn't at all-time highs, it is higher now than where it was at the start of the handle, even though the price is below the start of the handle. So it's showing that increasing relative strength right there. So we'll keep this one on breakout watch, Ken.
Absolutely.
And last but not least, checking back in on CarMax, KMX, an upside reversal at the 21-day line. After not too long ago, we did see a nice breakout for this stock.
Yeah, and they report earnings next week. It's pretty quiet on the earnings front, but we're going to hear from CarMax next week. And we know these used car dealerships have been seeing pretty good demand, especially as some of these, car makers like Ford and GM are dealing with production issues related to chip shortages. So a lot of these, used car dealers have good pricing power. They're seeing strong demand for used cars. If we go to the weekly chart for CarMax, we can see some other leaders in the group. And think about CarMax, its relative strength rating of 74 doesn't make it, the true leader in the group. But I still like the stock's technical picture here. You can see the weekly chart. It's just kind of pulling back and very, very light volume during the pullback. It's just kind of right near that last buy area. So, this one looks pretty good ahead of earnings. So we'll be watching it.
So if it does have a positive reaction to the quarterly report, potentially actionable?
Yeah, as long as it's still in that 5% buy zone. I think the actual the buy point was just over 128.50 or 128.68, I think it is. So it's easily in that 5% buy zone right now. So if the chart kind of looks like this when they report earnings next week, and it's not overly extended, or it hasn't broken down because the broad market has fallen apart, if the chart looks generally like this, it would fit the definition for a call option trade, definitely.
All right, fantastic. Thanks so much for that breakdown, Ken. And thank you all for tuning in. We're, of course, going to continue the conversation tomorrow morning on IBD Live, where our experts are sharing their screens. We're talking about actionable stocks, stocks that are setting up, sector rotation that we're seeing, overall market conditions, portfolio management strategies, a little bit of everything, Ken.
Yeah, absolutely. You'll be in the host chair tomorrow. You always do a great job, so we'll be tuning in, and a lot to talk about. It's been a frustrating market. People we like to make money in the market, but sometimes there are times to raise cash and kind of get out of the market's way when there's a lot of uncertainty and growth stocks breaking down. But the good thing is that the selling is going to eventually run its course, and we'll do a good job of identifying the new leaders when the market starts a new uptrend.
Yeah, well, I love asking all of our panelists questions and trying to incorporate some of the questions that we're getting from our audience. It's always a good time. So we hope you join us over at investors.com/IBD Live. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you back here tomorrow to round out the week.